For decades, American workers, farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and innovators have been hurt by the unfair trade with China. Forced technology transfer and intellectual property theft have been huge problems. Since China joined the World Trade Organization 2 decades ago, we have racked up nearly $5 trillion. The Vice Premier, I hope he's not listening to this, in trade deficits. Lost millions and millions of manufacturing jobs and saw tens of thousands of factories close. And that had to do also with Mexico and to an extent Canada. What they did to this country with trade and trade deals, NAFTA, we had no deal with China. I mean, we had no deal. And it was like just easy pickings. For years, politicians ran for office promising action to remedy these practices, only to do nothing but allow them to continue, and it was pillage. As a candidate for president, I vowed strong action. It's probably the biggest reason why I ran for president, because I saw it for so many years, and I said, how come nobody's doing something about it? In the meantime, immigration and building our military, also important, but that's probably the biggest reason. In June of 2016, in the great state of Pennsylvania, I promised that I would use every lawful presidential power to protect Americans from unfair trade and unfair trade practices. Unlike those who came before me, I kept my promise. They didn't promise too hard, but they didn't do anything. And I actually think I more than kept my promise. Now our efforts have yielded a transformative deal that will bring tremendous benefits to both countries. We have a great relationship with China. We have a great relationship with the leadership of China. And China fully understands that there has to be a certain reciprocity. There has to be. It cannot continue like this. It would be dangerous for it to continue like it was. The agreement we signed today includes groundbreaking provisions in an area of critical importance to the United States, protecting intellectual property. So the deal you're seeing today is a much bigger deal than we have it very much guarded. They asked one of our Democratic crying Chuck Schumer, oh, what do you think of the deal 2 weeks ago? He had no idea what the deal was. Never saw the deal. It's totally guarded. I don't like it. I don't like the deal, he said. Well, have you seen it? Yeah, I think I know. Well, why don't you like it? Well, they took the tariffs off. Actually, we didn't. He didn't know anything about the deal. He just said exactly what probably you should say as a politician. How do you like the deal? I don't like the deal. Do you know the deal? Sort of. He never saw the deal. He knew nothing about it. He would love the deal, but he can't say it because he's on the other party. But maybe Patrick would do the same thing, right? But you know what? I would say that you shouldn't. This is an unbelievable deal for the United States, and ultimately it's a great deal for both countries, and it's going to also lead to even a more stable peace throughout the world. China is helping us with North Korea. China is helping us with a lot of the things that they can be helping us with, which you don't see in a deal, but they have been very, very helpful with respect to Kim Jong-un, who has great respect for President Xi. And it's all a very, very beautiful game of chess or game of poker, or I can't use the word checkers because it's far greater than any checker game that I've ever seen. But it's a very beautiful mosaic. But China's giving us a lot of help, and we're giving them a lot of help on things that we help them with. One of the things that we are also talking about is fentanyl, and President Xi has already instituted very strong penalties and arrested large numbers of people who are sending fentanyl into our country. That never happened before. So China has made substantial and enforceable commitments regarding the protection of American ideas, trade secrets, patents, and trademarks. This was not, according to most, they didn't know we covered any of this. We've covered a lot of this. It's phase one, but they're doing many more things in phase one than anyone thought possible. China has also pledged firm action to confront pirated and counterfeit goods, which is a big problem for many of the people in the room. The counterfeiting. We'll make sure that this happens, and we have very, very strong protection. In addition, the agreement addresses forced technology transfer, policies that can require companies to give away their know-how and trade secrets. So now when Boeing has some work done over in China or wants to sell planes over in China, they don't have to give up every single thing that they've ever, that they've worked so hard to develop and to come up with. Are you guys hearing that? You don't have to give up anything anymore. Just be strong. Just be strong. Don't let it happen. But you don't have to do that. It was a terrible situation going on there. And a lot of it was because our companies, I have to say this, were very weak. You were very weak. You gave up things that you didn't have to give up, but now legally you don't have to give them up. Under this deal, transfers and licensing of technology will be based on market terms that are fully voluntary and reflect mutual agreement. Phase one will also see China greatly expand imports to the United States. We want to buy a lot of their product inexpensively, but we have an additional 200. They are going to be what's to me very important. Number one, they're going to be spending much more than $200 billion over the next 2 years, including up to $50 billion just on agriculture alone. And some of the numbers that I wrote down, on manufacturing, they'll be spending $75 billion. They'll be putting into our country, okay? They're going to be putting into our country $75 billion on manufacturing. $50 billion worth of energy. So that's great for our energy people. We're the number one in the world now. We weren't. We're now the number one energy group in the world. We're bigger than Saudi Arabia, and we're bigger than Russia. We're bigger than everybody. And for those people that are in the room that are very much into it, of which we have a lot of the oil and gas folks in the room, I'm approving some pipelines in Texas momentarily, which would have taken 15 more years to get, but you're going to have them very quickly. I mean, we take from a 15-year period to about a 2-month period, and I'm angry at my people for taking so long, right? But if we do that, we'll be up about another 22% in oil and natural gas. So we have $50 billion for energy, $50 billion for agriculture, and $40 to $50 billion on services, including, Rob, financial services. So the banks are going to be doing great, credit cards, all of the things that you do so well. You're going to be able to now go into China and really do a job, and they're going to be working with you. One of the other things I have to say is the protection of intellectual property. We have very strong protection of intellectual property. A lot of people thought this deal was just a simple deal for the farmers who are going to get $50 billion. Remember I said, Lindsay, they have to go out and buy larger tractors. China was doing $16 billion with the farmers, and they stopped. Why not? They're in a negotiation. So our people agreed to 20, and I said, no, make it 50. What difference does it make? Make it 50. They say, sir, our farmers can't produce that much. I said, I love our farmers. Let them tell me they can't do it. And I said, tell them to go out and buy a larger tractor, buy a little more land, but they'll be able to do it. I have no doubt they'll be able to do it. So the other thing that I think we have is the currency devaluation standards. We have a very strong standard for currency devaluation. And in all due respect, China was one of the greats in history at doing that, and we're going to work on it together. But currency devaluation will now have some very, very strong restrictions and very powerful restrictions. And we have full, again, the word, one of the strongest things we have, total and full enforceability. And you know what that means. Total, full enforceability on all of this. So the agreement tears down major market barriers for U.S. food and agricultural exports. China will now welcome American beef and pork, poultry, seafood, rice, dairy, infant formula, animal feed, biotechnology, and much, much more, because frankly, they were not doing things that they were supposed to be, and that's okay, because now they will. The deal will also benefit energy, manufacturing, services, and all sectors of the economy. And I will say this deal, again, they thought it was a $50 billion agricultural deal. Now it's much more than $200 billion, of which 50 is agricultural, but the rest is in all of the other things that we just discussed, especially for financial, and you should really look at it. And you have free pass, and you don't have to worry about the 49% where you can't own, because you're going to be able to own now, and you're not going to have to take partners that are forced upon you. It's an incredible deal from that standpoint, too. We're delighted that the Chinese consumers will now enjoy the greater access to the best products on earth, those made, grown, and raised right here in the USA. So phase one, which has been really incredible. You know, we almost had the whole deal done, but this is better. This is a more detailed deal for this aspect of the deal. It was such a big deal before, and this is a much more targeted, much more powerful deal for everything we're doing, which is a very large part of the deal. But we're going to be starting phase two as soon as this kicks in. We'll be starting phase two. We're leaving tariffs on, which people are shocked, but it's great. But I will agree to take those tariffs off if we are able to do phase two. In other words, we're negotiating with the tariffs. We have 25% on $250 billion worth of goods. And then we're bringing the 10% down to 7.5% on $300 billion worth of goods plus. So, but I'm leaving them on because otherwise we have no cards to negotiate with, and negotiating with Leo is very tough. But they will all come off as soon as we finish phase two, and that would be something that some people on Wall Street will love, but from what I see, they love this deal the way it is now. But we have very strong cards, and frankly, China and I are going to start negotiating with Bob and Steve and everybody very, very shortly. So from this nation's vibrant heartland to our gleaming cities, millions of workers and farmers and innovators have waited decades for this day. We never even had a deal with China. In all fairness, I don't blame China. I blame the people that stood here before me. I don't blame China. I told that to President Xi. I was in Beijing making a speech saying how they're ripping us off. And guess what? He wasn't too happy. I looked at him. I said, he's not happy. And I said, I better change the speech quickly. So I said, I don't blame him. I blame our presidents. And I'm right. We should have done the same thing to them, but we didn't. We didn't. We never had to deal with them. They do whatever they wanted. With this signing, we mark more than just an agreement. We mark a sea change in international trade. At long last, Americans have a government that puts them first at the negotiating table. First in trade, first in every deal, every decision, and every action we take with incredible enforceability. As we move on to phase two, I look forward to continuing to forge a future of greater harmony, prosperity, and really commerce and far beyond commerce between the United States and China. This is something that far beyond even this deal, it's going to lead to a even stronger world peace. We now have a big investment in each other and in getting along with each other. And this deal is phase one. We'll probably be able to conclude it with phase two. We don't expect to have a phase three, but it's something that we all want to get done, and it'll be a tremendously big deal. This is something that's going to be so special, however, to our manufacturers, our farmers, our bankers, our service people. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. This is the biggest deal there is anywhere in the world by far, and that's good. We're doing another big one next week, but this is the biggest deal anybody's ever seen, and it can lead to being a deal that's unprecedented because China has 1.5 billion people, and ultimately in phase two, we're going to be opening up China to all of your companies, so I hope you folks can handle it. So now I'd like to ask Ambassador Lighthizer and Secretary Mnuchin to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Vice Premier, it is an honor to be here for this momentous event. The President has long fought for fair and balanced trade for Americans. He has for years complained about our enormous trade deficit with China and the unfair practices which have, in part, contributed to it. Indeed, solving the trade crisis was a major objective of his campaign and of his administration. The United States and China are two great countries with true great economies, but two very different economic systems. It is imperative that we develop trade and economic rules and practices that allow us both to prosper. The alternative is not acceptable for either of us. This phase one agreement is the result of over 2 years of hard work. It is an important part of the President's economic plan and it is a big step forward in writing the rules needed and developing the practices that we must have going forward. This agreement will benefit both the United States and China. I am grateful to the President for allowing me to be part of this plan. I am grateful to Secretary Mnuchin, my friend with whom I have worked so closely on this and on so many other matters. Finally, I would like to thank and acknowledge the more than 60 men and women at USTR and other agencies who have worked so hard on this day and night for so many months. I should begin with Ambassador Jeffrey Garish, who's my deputy, who led this effort. Thank you for your patriotism. I would also like to single out Ambassador Gregory Dowd, who's my agriculture deputy, and the assistant USTR responsible for this enormous effort, Terry McCartan. This was a great team effort by my office, as well as the Departments of Treasury, Agriculture, Commerce, and many others. I should also acknowledge the hard work of the Chinese side. Vice Premier Liu He is a leader who is diligent, patriotic, as near as I can tell, always working, and has proven himself honorable. To appreciate We appreciate also the efforts of Minister Zhang. Thank you to Lau Min, his principal, the Vice Premier's principal deputy, and the rest of your team. Once again, congratulations, President Trump, and congratulations, President Xi.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, under your leadership, the economic policies of this administration are working. Tax cuts, regulatory relief, and now great trade deals are making the U.S. economy stronger and helping American business and workers and farmers. This is an incredible accomplishment. I want to particularly thank Ambassador Lighthizer. You've done an extraordinary job leading this effort across literally an enormous resources. Every single agency contributed this, the White House. This was a real team effort, so thank you very much for your extraordinary job. I'd also like to thank the Vice Premier and his team. We could not have done this without all of you. This was a lot of hard work, and again, I'd like to thank you and President Xi. A great step forward, momentous agreement between our two countries. Thank you.
By the way, I have to just tell you that a woman is in the room who loves her state so much, and I didn't introduce her before because I wanted to say of her, you have been so great. Would you please stand up, Shelley? West Virginia, Senator. Thank you. Good. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you. So I want to again thank Vice Premier for the work we've done together. It's been an incredible number of months. It was stop and go, and it looked like it was pretty much going to be stop and never go. But I'd like to now invite you on behalf of the great nation, and it is indeed a great nation. In fact, I'd like you to just relax a little while. Take it easy. Go out, see a movie. Tell President Xi, I said, President, go out, have a round of golf. See a movie? No, I am too busy. But they are workers. China is an incredible, incredible nation. And I'd like to have you say a few words. Mr. Vice Premier, please. The Vice Premier would like to read a letter that was just sent to me, I found out, from President Xi. And we'll ask the interpreter to come up, please. Okay? Thank you very much. That's very nice.
感谢特朗普总统。下面呢，我宣读习主席给特朗普总统带的口信。
Thank you, President Trump. Now, may I read out the message from President Xi Jinping to President Donald J. Trump.
Sorry，总统先生你好，在中美双方签约第一阶段经贸协议之际，我委托刘鹤副总理带去我对你的诚挚问候。
Mr. President, as China and the United States sign the Phase 1 trade agreement, I ask Vice Premier Liu He to bring to you my warm greetings.
正如我在去年12月20日同你通话时指出，中美达成第一阶段经贸协议，有利于中美两国，有利于世界。这也说明中美双方完全可以在平等和相互尊重的基础上，通过对话磋商，找到有关问题的妥善处理和有效解决办法。
As I said during our phone call on the 20th of December last year, conclusion of the Phase 1 trade agreement between China and the US is good for China, for the US, and for the whole world. It also shows that our two countries have the ability to act on the basis of equality and mutual respect and work through dialogue and consultation to properly handle and effectively resolve relevant issues.
下一步，双方要把协议落到实处，发挥积极作用，推动中美经贸合作取得更大的进展。
In the next step, the two sides need to implement the agreement in real earnest and optimize its positive impact so as to make even greater progress in China-US trade and economic cooperation.
保持中美关系健康稳定发展，符合双方利益，需要双方共同做出努力。
To maintain healthy and steady growth of China-US relations serves the interest of both countries and requires joint efforts from both sides.
本着这一精神，希望美方公平对待中国企业正常贸易和投资活动，支持两国企业、科研机构、学校等开展合作，促进中美互信与合作。
In that spirit, I hope the US side will treat fairly Chinese companies and their regular trade and investment activities and give support to the collaboration between enterprises, research institutes, and schools and colleges of the two countries, as it will help enhance mutual trust and cooperation between us.
中方愿与美方相向而行，我愿与你保持密切的联系，相信在我们共同引领下，中美关系在新的一年能够给两国人民带来更多利益和实惠。
China is prepared to work with the US in that direction, and I will stay in close touch with you personally. I believe that under our guidance, China-US relations will deliver more results and bring greater benefits to our peoples in the year ahead.
再过几天就是中国农历春节了，我和我的夫人彭丽媛祝总统先生、梅拉尼亚女士和家人新春快乐，诸事顺遂。
The Chinese Lunar New Year is just a few days away. I and my wife, Peng Liyuan, extend our season's greetings to you, to Melania and your family. May you all enjoy happiness and success in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable President Donald Trump, Honorable Vice President Mike Pence, Ambassador Lighthizer, Secretary Mnuchin, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today China and the United States will be officially signing the Phase 1 trade agreement. First of all, allow me to pay tribute to our two presidents. I also want to thank the U.S. principals, our two economic teams, and all those who have made their contribution to this Phase 1 trade agreement. As two great countries with important responsibilities in world affairs, China and the United States, with the larger picture in mind, have taken a serious approach to our differences and worked to manage them appropriately, reaching Phase 1 trade agreement. It is good for China, for the United States, and for the world. This is a mutually beneficial and win-win agreement. It will bring about stable economic growth, promote world peace and prosperity, and is in the interest of the producers, consumers, investors in both countries. At the same time, this agreement is not directed at, nor will it affect, the lawful rights and interest of any third country. It is in line with WTO rules. A cooperative economic and trade relationship is the propeller of the overall China-US relations. Over the past 2 years, the two sides encountered some difficulties in the economic and trade field. At times, there were setbacks in our trade talks because on some issues, we don't see eye to eye. However, our two economic teams did not give up. With relentless efforts from both sides, on the basis of equality and mutual respect, we have reached this Phase 1 trade agreement. As we Chinese often say, one should not be daunted by difficult problems because there are always more solutions than problems. This is an extensive agreement. After it is signed, China will work with the U.S., act in the principle of equality and mutual respect, strictly honor the agreement, accommodate each other's core concerns, and ensure the good implementation of the Phase 1 trade agreement. It is the pressing need and will also play an important role in the growth of bilateral economic and trade relations in the future. As to where we will go from here, there is a Chinese proverb that goes, "The beginning is the most difficult part." There is a similar saying in English, "A good beginning is half a success." They mean the same thing. It means that we need to continue to be problem-oriented and focus on implementing the Phase 1 trade agreement so as to bring about a good start in the sound economic and trade relations going forward. As the living standards of the Chinese people rises, we will import fine quality agricultural products from countries across the world. As the two sides have agreed based on the market demand in China, in line with market terms, Chinese businesses will purchase $40 billion of agricultural products from the United States annually. If the demand is strong, the companies may buy more. To make it happen, the two governments need to foster a sound market environment for businesses to expand trade activities. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, the Chinese economy is transitioning from high-speed growth to high-quality development. A new philosophy is governing our development across the board. Reform and opening up is picking up speed. This year, we will build a moderately prosperous society in all respects. China's per capita GDP has exceeded $10,000. A 400 million strong middle income group is emerging. And a massive domestic market is taking shape. China welcomes investors from around the world to China, including those from the United States, and will expand imports of fine quality products and services from other countries. China will continue to enhance the legal environment, step up the protection of property rights and intellectual property, apply a management system of pre-establishment national treatment plus the negative list, and create a level playing field. China will open itself even wider. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, the world is now at a critical historical crossroads. We are faced with the major strategic choice of how to promote major country cooperation and international cooperation. China has developed a political system and a model of economic development that suit its national reality. This doesn't mean China and the United States cannot work together. On the contrary, our two countries share enormous common commercial interests, and we are faced with multiple common challenges like terrorism, counter-narcotics, widening income gap, an aging population, major diseases, resources, and protecting the environment. There is a real need for closer cooperation. President Xi Jinping points out that there are 1,000 reasons to make China-US relations succeed, and not a single one to let it fail. We must seek common ground while putting aside differences and find a path toward win-win cooperation. This has important implications for China, the United States, and the world at large. It has been and will continue to be proved that we both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. Cooperation is the only right choice. We need to act in the overall interest of world peace and development and shared future of humanity. Pursue equal consultation with mutual respect and take forward China-US relations based on coordination, cooperation, and stability, and fulfill the great historic mission that we shoulder together. Well, I see many visionary people here in the audience who have made important contribution to the sound development of China-US relations. Please accept my most sincere appreciation. The Lunar Chinese New Year is coming soon. I extend season's greetings to you. I wish you good health and all the success. Again, thank you very much, President Trump, and thank you all. Now, I'd like to invite Ambassador Cui Tiankai to say a few words. Thank you.
And just prior to signing, we'll ask Ambassador Shui to come up and say a few words. Thank you. Yes, please.
Honorable President Trump, Vice President Pence, Secretary Mnuchin, Ambassador Lighthizer, Your Excellency Vice Premier Liu He, Minister Zhongshan, and Governor Yigang, ladies and gentlemen. Just now, Vice Premier has given us a comprehensive elaboration on China's principled position on the China-US Phase 1 trade agreement. Given the highly complex international environment, reaching a China-US Phase 1 trade agreement based on equality and mutual respect is good for China and the US, and good for the peace and prosperity of the whole world. We hope both sides will abide by and implement the agreement with earnest to keep the China-US trade relations in the right direction of mutual benefit and win-win, and deliver greater benefits to the people of our two countries. China's development is a result of the wisdom and hard work of 1.4 billion Chinese people. And the rights of the Chinese people to pursue a better life is what should be there. There is great potential for greater China-US cooperation, and the defining feature of this economic cooperation between our two countries is mutual benefit. People of both countries benefit from such cooperation. These facts haven't and will not change. The China-US relationship is now at a crucial juncture. As we have reached the Phase 1 trade agreement, it is now important that we leverage the opportunity, earnestly implement the strategic consensus reached between our two presidents, and keep our bilateral relations in the right direction. We need to strengthen strategic communication and dialogue on various levels to build trust, reduce misgivings, misunderstandings, and misjudgment, and properly manage differences so as to build a China-US relationship based on coordination, cooperation, and stability. To conclude, I want to take this opportunity to thank you again, friends from all the communities in the United States, for your support to the healthy growth of China-US relations. Let's work together in the new year. Thank you.
Well, just in closing, and we're going to sign right now, but it just doesn't get any bigger than this, not only in terms of a deal, but really in terms of what it represents. Keeping these two giant and powerful nations together in harmony is so important for the world, not only for us, for the whole world. And the world is watching today. So it's a great honor to be involved. It's a great honor, Mr. Vice Premier, to be with you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.